We've made it back from the break here live on In My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine's own Stephen M. Smith. For Crimson Tide fans, it's literally become how many more injuries can we endure? How many more medical mishaps, setbacks can we take? How many more of these situations can we look at and still find a way to get other 4 and 5 stars on the field and no drop off is provided? Alabama has been able, or it was able, to withstand not having Christian Miller and Terrell Lewis. Both guys injured at the beginning of the year against Florida State were ruled out for the season. At this point, there's a good chance one of those two, either Miller or Lewis, can return in the latter part of this year, whether it's against Mississippi State, whether it's against Auburn or Georgia in the SEC championship game, providing if Bama makes it there, one of those two between Miller or Lewis could return. But Alabama was able to get by that. Alabama was able to withstand when Rashaan Evans, Anthony Jennings, and Dylan Moses were out. It was able to withstand not having Deshaun Hand for 3 games. But now, with Shaun, Dion Hamilton, and Mack Wilson both out, both had surgery, Shaun Dion Hamilton on his knee, Mack Wilson on his foot. It looks like both guys will miss the remainder of the season. Shaun Dion, Alabama, Nick Saban, hopeful that he can possibly come back to put a good end on his career with him being a senior. With Wilson, there was an actual timetable being laid out, 4 to 6 weeks. So you more than likely could have Mack Wilson back, if not by the Southeastern Conference title game, well, at least the college football playoff. But as it seems now, both guys highly unlikely to be back for the remainder of the regular season. So after stating this, who is the next man up for the Crimson Tide when you're down 2 of your inside backers? Well, a lot of the pressure is going to fall on Rashaan Evans and Keith Holcomb where leadership is concerned. Rashaan Evans, who once again, keep in mind last year, was in this same situation when Shaun Dion injured his anterior cruciate ligament in his left knee when it happened in the 2016 SEC title game to Florida. Rashaan Evans came in, picked up the slack. There was no drop-off. As a matter of fact, 21 of Evans' 53 tackles came when Hamilton was out. So Evans very much so used to the pressure being on him. He's used to players looking up to him for information, for guidance, for leadership. He's used to that. He's used to crunch time moments where we got to have this tackle. Alabama's got to have this stop. Alabama must have this play. Evans is used to having that moment be on him. As for Keith Holcomb, though he's been in the system for 4 years, going back to the 2014 signing class, came in, 4-star recruit from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, from Tuscaloosa, Hillcrest High School. He's been in the system, but he has never really been asked to be in a crunch time, we need it, we gotta have it situation, if you catch my drift. I'm not saying he can't do it. I honestly believe he can function in this situation. But it's almost like the NBA. Check this out. When Kyrie Irving was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, he never had to be bombarded by the media. The media never went to him first. It always went to LeBron James. When there was a problem in the locker room, the media never went to Kyrie Irving. It went to LeBron James. If a teammate was to go down with a season-ending serious injury, the media didn't go to Kyrie Irving. It went to LeBron James. So LeBron literally shielded Kyrie from a lot of problems. Kyrie could just play his game. He can just be the finisher around the basket. He could just be the clutch three-point shooter. He didn't have to bear all the responsibilities of being the main guy. He could just be Robin. He didn't have to be Batman. He could just be Robin in the cut, not having to deal with all the rigmarole of the external noise. He could just be Robin, doing his thing. It's one thing when you want to get paid like the big man, but it's a whole nother monster when you have to be the big man. When you have to handle all the responsibilities that come with being a man. And Kyrie Irving, I don't know, is simply, or I don't think is ready to shelter or shield or have all of that being thrust upon him the way LeBron James is. In this sense, Keith Holcomb played against Colorado State and Fresno State. He started those games, but those were not crunch time games. Those are games to get your feet wet. Those are games in which you know you're going to win if you're Alabama. Your third or fourth or fifth string could go out there and win those games. Yes, you want to take every game seriously and every team seriously, but the amount of talent that you have versus your competition, your fourth and fifth string has 5 stars that can go out there and pretty much win that game against Colorado State and Fresno State. But now that you're in the crunch, the epitome, the toughest part of your schedule where you got to win, you can't afford to lose. The college football playoff rankings are now in session. We had the first installment of rankings last week, the second installment this week. So losing is not an option, is what I'm saying. Keith Holcomb has never been in a moment where it's do or die. Losing's not an option. Bama's got to have this tackle. Bama's got to have this stop in the backfield. Bama's got to have this play. It's dire. It's urgent. We must have it. Keith Holcomb's never really been in that situation. And you don't really know how one can handle it unless you're put in that situation. So this week in practice will be a very critical week for Holcomb. This game against Mississippi State will be a very crucial game for him. Depending on where Alabama places both Rashaan Evans and Keith Holcomb on the field will be interesting because Mississippi State, when you have a dual threat quarterback in Nick Fitzgerald, I get it. His passing numbers this year are not too sexy, completing 56.8% of his throws. He has 13 touchdown passes, but yes, he does have 10 interceptions. His passer rating at 118.99. And the rushing attack does have 802 yards on the ground and 12 touchdowns. So we know he can run the football, but throwing the football, not particularly accurate this year. Even though, to his credit, aside from Donald Gray, there's no big marquee name that he can really get the ball to make those explosive plays. So that's it in a nutshell for Nick Fitzgerald. But depending upon where Alabama chooses to line up Rashaan Evans and Keith Holcomb on the field, you can have Rashaan Evans play inside, Keith Holcomb play the weak side backer due to the fact that he is 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", 245 pounds. He does have quickness to some degree. He's very instinctive, can dissect the play, strong tackler in space, which is a good thing, especially if the Bulldogs try to go with dump passes, flare outs to the flat, runs to the flat. He can get over there, dissect the play, make the tackle, negating yards after contact. Keith Holcomb can do that. But it just comes down to how does he respond in kind of that crunch time moment situation which Alabama is in right now. Aside from Evans and Holcomb, there was one name Nick Saban mentioned during his presser that it's really going to be his time or this guy's time to step up, and he'll have an opportunity to do so. That guy is freshman linebacker and Baton Rouge native Dylan Moses. Dylan Moses against LSU had 1.5 sacks and 1.5 tackles for loss, both of those coming in the fourth quarter. In a moment where he literally explodes off the edge, comes on a stunt blitz, gets to Danny Etling and backup quarterback Miles Brennan, brings them both to the ground, and once he gets up, just the sheer emotion and animation that man showed. At 6'5", 232 pounds, the young man from, once again, Baton Rouge, but went to high school at IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, listed at number 5 on the ESPN 300, a unanimous 5-star prospect, one of 6 5-star recruits that signed in Alabama's 2017 class. Dylan Moses, there are players that just lust for the pressure to be on them. They crave the moment where it's their moment, it's the rubber meets the road. They want to be the guy when the game is on the line to make the big play. They have that ice in their veins, that swagger that, hey, I can get this done. No moment too big for your boy. I can go get it. I can go sack him. I can go handle that. And Dylan Moses kind of has that MO where he can go handle that. As I mentioned, exploded off the ball to get Danny Etling, to get Miles Brennan, the backup quarterback, no pressure. Just came up, boom, got both of them. Crowd going pandemonium. NFL scouts dropping pins in the press box, looking at each other going, who the heck is that kid? That kid wearing number 18? Yeah, who's that? Dylan Moses. Pretty sure LSU head coach Ed Orgeron's sick to his stomach that could have had Dylan Moses, didn't get him. Walks right to Alabama. 1.5 sacks. So Nick Saban talked about how this young man has progressed throughout the season, has a better understanding of what he's supposed to do, and he is looked at as the next man up along with some other younger guys. And one of those younger guys, it's got to be Ben Davis. Ben Davis, who came in with Mack Wilson in that 2016 signing class. Another 5-star prospect. His father, Wayne Davis, former Alabama standout, who holds the career mark in tackles with 327. Ben Davis out of Gordo High School at 6'4", 240 pounds. This man has all the potential and talent in the world. And it's not the fact that he doesn't understand the defense Saban is running. He's got the defense, the terminology, the word jargon down. It's just fine-tuning the details. Because as much as he is a stickler for knowing his defensive system, Nick Saban is an even bigger stickler for details. Why are you hitting the A gap? Why are you swimming to the inside? Why are you hitting the B gap? Why are you attacking the edge and taking on that running back? Why are you taking his angle away? Why are you doing this? He wants you to understand what you are doing and the purpose for why you are doing it so you will have a better handle on getting the repetition down. That's how Nick Saban is. Ben Davis knows the terminology, knows the system, knows the word jargon, just fine-tuning those attention to details, or the attention to those details. But I believe this week he will be bumped into the conversation of being one of those guys that's got to get more playing time because, in the words of Saban, you have to have the right numbers at inside linebacker to know what you have to create that type of depth to go out there and play. When one guy comes out of the game for a breather, you have to have trust in the next guy going in there that has those reps to come in, make the play, provide no drop-off, continue that production. So once again, with Mack Wilson, Shaun, Dion, Hamilton down, Mack Wilson more than likely to come back either the SEC championship game, should Bama make it, or the college football playoff. With those two down, and with Alabama hopeful that they can get maybe either Christian Miller or Terrell Lewis back soon, you have Rashaan Evans and Keith Holcomb sheltering the leadership where the inside backers are concerned. Dylan Moses, the guy Nick Saban has mentioned to be the next man up. And also Ben Davis. Pee or get off the pot. Now is your time, big fella. Pee or get off the pot. What are you going to do? What is Ben Davis going to do? We'll definitely find out. This week in practice also very critical for him. We take another break here on In My Own Words. Upon our return, we switch this over to Mississippi State. What do the Bulldogs present with Nick Fitzgerald that could be the biggest challenge for Alabama on Saturday at Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville? We'll touch it up. Once again, this podcast brought to you by Touchdown Alabama Magazine and Bama Sports Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go nowhere. We coming back.